Hey everyone, welcome to Capacity Planning in your Jira Advanced Roadmaps. This one is going to be hard. I was preparing for this one, and boy, oh boy, is the documentation interesting. So, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this whole lesson here into a learning opportunity, and we're going to struggle through it. We're going to read through Atlassian. I think I have like 80% of it down. The only fuzzy part you'll see is how Atlassian treats the capacity on an active versus an inactive sprint. And it kind of felt backwards to me. But I also had a very contaminated board. So what we're going to do is we're going to start fresh. We're going to start from the beginning and kind of help you walk through this all the way. So capacity planning inside of Jira Advanced Roadmaps, aka plans. Let's jump into it. So, friendly reminders: this session is being recorded. As per the norm, we're at the end of April here. This is our last session of April, so hopefully none of you are new here. But if you're new, these sessions are on my YouTube channel. So why don't you take a second here to also subscribe to the channel? Slides won't be available because if you're also not new here, you know that we're going to spend the next 10 seconds in the PowerPoint, and then we're going to jump into Jira. And so because of that, there's no slides to really share other than the fact that you're going to see my pretty face in a second. Say hello in the chat. I love to see where everybody's tuning in from, and I love to see the local. So Chad, you're a regular now. And who else do we have? Ghost of Razgreaves is also a regular that jumps in from time to time. Lori, you are, I think you're a familiar regular as well. And so if you're a regular and you've been joining me for either the all 2025 or even if you're coming in from 2024 sessions, take advantage here and just let me know in the chat if you or where you're tuning in from, who you are. We got Martin from Estonia. Ronnie does not count because well, it's Ronnie. We got Melinda from North Carolina, and from Belgium. Wow, I just love El Marie from South Africa. El Marie's first session. Okay, so welcome, welcome, welcome. My name's Alex. We'll go over some details in a second here. Indianapolis with Chad, Yanira's from New York City, and Lori's from Michigan. All right. Hopefully you're warming up in Michigan. Hopefully that snow is melting. Noreen's from the Philippines. All right. So we got a few people. Wow, Netherlands as well. Awesome. Love to see all the faces from, I guess digital faces from all over the world. So again, session's being recorded. Smash the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. No sites available. Use the chat to ask questions. I'm going to be monitoring that throughout the session here. Ooh, Lori. I will be in San Francisco next week. We're going to the Atlassian office. We're going to do a little event on April 30th. So if you are free, you should definitely stop by the Atlassian office. I believe it's going to be somewhere around 6 p.m. Pacific time. And so stop by the Atlassian office. We're going to have a cool event with the Fun Man. So definitely, if you want to come say hi, come by the SF Atlassian office on April 30th. Gonna have fun. I think 6 p.m. I think I heard somewhere around 6 p.m. I'm dragging Ed. I don't know about Bob, but a couple of us are going to be there. Fun Man's going to be there. Get Kraken's going to be there, and so we're gonna have a fun time. It's going to be great. So if you're in the San Francisco area, April 30th, make sure you stop by. Okay, let's jump a little bit about me. I do need to update my picture because I have a whole new spiffy picture. But my name's Alex. I do videos on the internet, and I help people learn Jira. I have an ACP 120, ACP 520. Ronnie and I, shortly right after this, so in like 56 minutes, we're going to be doing our ACP 620 study session. So we're well underway for that. And so if you want to study along with us, make sure you jump over to the Jira Live because that's where we're going to be doing the ACP 620. But I primarily just help people with their Jira problems. Yes, next, whatever, if next Wednesday is April 30th, then yes, next Wednesday. I am really bad with counters. I am assuming that next Wednesday is April 30th, and it is. Yeah, so next Wednesday, Lori, we will be at the Atlassian office. Okay, and then let me just drop my little QR code here. We have a link, so if you need any help with any of your Jira stuff, or you just want to kind of check out what I got to offer, if specifically if you need like some one-on-one specialized help, here's my link tree where you can sign up for some time with me, and I'd be more than happy to help you out with your Jira problems. So definitely take advantage of that. So 4 minutes in, we get faster and faster every time. We're trying to keep this under 5 minutes here for our little intros. What are we going to be learning today? So as I mentioned at the beginning, this is going to be capacity planning. Now, capacity planning inside the Jira Advanced Roadmaps, I'm not the biggest fan. I was trying it out this week and it's cool. It gives you some good visuals, but it's not the way I would do it. But again, I'm not here to give you my opinion all the time. So we're going to walk through the steps. And as you can see, there's quite an amount of steps here that you have to do. And there's some rules that we got to follow. Because if you don't follow these rules, then it doesn't really work. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through the hoops. But then as an added bonus at the end, I'm going to try to see if I can reserve the last 10, 15 minutes of this. I'm going to show you how I do it. Because as I mentioned, I'm not a big fan of how Atlassian does it. I didn't particularly care for it. I didn't find it valuable, mainly because it's complex to set up. So I'm going to show you the way I do it, the way I kind of teach it. I think it's easier and I think it's better. I think it still gives you what you're looking for, but I think you might want to use some combination of both how Atlassian does it and the way I do it. So we're going to start off by creating a team. We need a Scrum project. So without the Scrum project, you technically can do this with a Kanban board, but it's not as valuable if you're in a Kanban board. So we're definitely going to need a Scrum project. Then we're going to have to add or create a plan with that said Scrum project and that team. We'll set up the capacity. We'll estimate our work. We'll start our sprints, and then we'll visualize some capacities here. So with that said, we're going to jump on over to Jira over here. And we're going to start with step one, which is let's create a team. So everybody should be able to create a team. I don't think you need to be a Jira admin to do this, but know that you need to use you need to leverage the Jira default built-in team field. Now, I'm already not a huge fan of the team field. The team field is problematic in my opinion, but Atlassian is investing heavily into the team field, so it might behoove you to get intimate with this team field here because Atlassian is really going to leverage the power of the team in all aspects of Atlassian, so not just within Jira. So I think it's a good idea to learn how to use it. I wish Atlassian would add some safeguards to it, though. Being able to delete teams is not something everybody should be able to do. And if a team's going to be deleted, site admins or org admins should know or communicate a little bit better. But anyways, different topic for a different day. So we're going to create a team, and we're going to call this the capacity demo team. And then here you essentially want to add a few people. So I have just myself, but I'm going to add my friend Alana, and I'm going to add my friend, I don't know, Bitbucket Pipelines. I'm just trying to see Cassie and Kevin are going to come onto the team. So we're going to have a team. Let's get rid of Bitbucket. Let's see if I have anybody else. Emma. Okay. So we're going to create a team. We have 1, 2, 4, 5 people on our team, and I'm just going to create the team. All right. And so now that the team exists, that's step one. So you essentially want to make sure you create a team. This is going to be very, very important. Second thing you want to be aware of is we're going to want to create a Scrum project. Now you could technically not, you could use one of your existing projects, but the projects that I have in my Jira are so messy that I just want to start a new one. I think that's where I got really confused last night. So I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new Scrum-based project. Okay. And I think this is important. From what I'm understanding, team or company are going to both work with the capacity planning, but you know me, friends don't let friends create team managed projects. So we're going to make a capacity demo project. All right. And we're just going to click on next and accept the defaults. Now we have a question here. Let's see. Not a fan of the team field either. Yay. At least I'm not alone. Go says, if you can assign something to a team field, that would be nice. So technically, you technically do assign work to a team. I'll show you what that looks like when we jump into the plan. And I think I find value in a team field. I just don't find value in that Atlassian's team field, mainly because of the scars that I have from the errors or mistakes that have been made. But I am a huge proponent of creating some sort of a team field, whether it's a default one or making a custom one, where you do assign a big thing like an epic to a team. And then that team will then decompose that epic down to the stories that are done by the individual contributor. So I am a fan of that. But again, I'll tell you guys a story. So let me tell you why I don't like the team field, because I feel like I'm beating around the bush, and I'd love to just kind of get this out there. Okay, so the team field is an awesome field, right? I think Atlassian has a great intent and great great reason behind it. It's just I think Atlassian has made some mistakes here, but let me tell you why. So I worked in an organization where we had 20 different Jiras, right? 20 different sites, 20 different Jira products. And everything was great when the team field was isolated to the specific site, right? Because it could be shared with Confluence and Jira. Awesome. Life was good. I could see the team from Confluence, the Jira could leverage the team. And what we ended up doing is I had a single Jira project for like software development, and I had a lot of boards, and each team had its own board, and I made team be a required field. So whenever you created a story or an epic, you had to assign it to a team, and then based on the team, it would show up in the right team board. Awesome, right? Really, really good use, I think, of the team field. It gave us one single project to manage. Multiple teams had their own backlogs, independent sprints, and whatnot. So life was good. And then one day, Atlassian decides to mm, conjoin, if that's the right word, conjoin the way the team experience works, and so my teams from the sandbox became the teams from production, and so now sandbox and production shared the same teams, and then the same teams stepped up to the org level, and so all 20 of my Jiras could see the same teams. And what ended up happening was two problems. One, because of the transition and because of the some teams were older than others, Atlassian decided to change the UI, the unique ID that locked up the team or that identified the team, and so things got muddied there. So we had to go back. I had to like Atlassian had to like open up the database and fix my teams. That was one problem, and then the second problem that I encountered was because the team showed up in the other sites, a different site admin was like, "Oh, I don't recognize this team," and just started deleting teams. And so now the teams that were super valuable that actually drove all those boards, they disappeared one day and they were just gone. And there was no communication around it. And I'm like, well, it just literally broke for like 3 or 4 days. We couldn't do any work until we figured out what was going on and how to fix it. And so because of that, I just don't use the team field. I'm very, very anti-team field just because of, again, there's not enough safeguards around it. And if you're going to be depending on this team field the way Atlassian wants you to depend on it, I feel like it needs more admin friendly safeguards so that you don't put yourself in awkward positions like I've been in. But again, it's not there yet. So because of that, I don't like to I don't like to promote it. So that's story time with Alex on why I don't like the team field. Okay, let's see. We have some more questions. So we got, I love the concept behind the team field, just not the implementation, from Ronnie. Carrie says, I've created the same thing in my past life with the Jira group. Yeah. So let's talk about the difference between Jira teams and Jira groups, because they are fundamentally very different. And so what I do like about the team is that it's a value that you can create. So you can just, as we just did right here, create the team. Awesome. That's really good. And then other teams can see, right? Other teams can click on the search for people in teams and they can see the teams that are available. That's really good because the groups are hidden to only the administrators. So a regular user wouldn't know that a group exists. And so there's some benefits and some pros and some cons there. But the advanced roadmaps doesn't work off of groups, it works off of teams. And so you you got to kind of pick and choose your battles here on which one you want. Debbie says, shame that Atlassian spent so much time on the new navigation rather than making the team feel work more successfully. Yeah, the new UI is definitely something to write home about. What does the Atlassian CEO think of team managed projects? Ronnie, let's not go down that rabbit hole. But if you are interested, I did have an opportunity to sit down with Mike Cannon-Brookes, CEO of Atlassian, and I asked him that very same question. And so go check out the interview on the Jira Life, where we talked with Mike and we asked him the hard question of why do team managed projects exist? So he gave me a good answer. He's almost got me convinced. Almost. All right. I think the new navigation is leading to other improvements, getting things. Yep. So new navigation's coming. It's gonna be here and it's gonna be great. The team field is very valuable in the ITSM. Yeah, again, I'm not saying I don't like the team. I I don't like Atlassian's implementation of the team field. I almost always with my engagements have my clients create a custom team field that we can control, because I don't ever want to build something great and be at the mercy of Atlassian's updates. Because again, I've been burned twice. I like the idea, not the implementation. Okay, so anyways, so that's where we're at. All right, so we've created a new project, and so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna create some epics here. So bear with me while I pull up ChatGPT here and give me a few epics for a demo that I'm doing on capacity planning. The epics should be about building an e-commerce site. So I'm just going to ask ChatGPT to give me a few epics to get us started. Then I'm going to show you the power of AI. We're built into Jira using Atlassian Intelligence to show me or show you how to build stories out real quickly. So let's see. ChatGPT is being a little slow this morning. And so we're going to grab our first epic here, which is build a product catalog system. And so we're just going to grab this one, hit enter. Again, since I'm starting off with a brand new Jira project, I have an empty Jira project. So we're going to have to add at least 2 or 3 epics here to basically get us started, because we do need to have work inside of our Jira project for this to make sense. Now I'm going to open up each epic and I'm going to give it a description. And then I'm going to ask Atlassian Intelligence. Wow, my ChatGPT is not cooperating at all. I'm going to ask Atlassian Intelligence to take this information and build us the children. So now that I've added a description here, I'm going to add a child, and I'm going to ask Atlassian Intelligence to create the tasks and stories. So I'm going to accept those in, put them in, and then I'm going to do the rest, the same for the rest. All right, so we're very quickly building a backlog of work based on this title and description here. Add child issue, Atlassian Intelligence, do your thing. Awesome. See how quickly we can go from, I love the power of AI. If you guys are not leveraging AI daily, you're missing out. I think there's some tremendous potential with AI. Still has some problems, but a lot of tremendous potential nonetheless. Okay. So here we go. We got a bunch of stories in. And the reason we needed to do this is because when we look at our backlog, I need to have stuff to plan into a sprint. So without it, it's going to be a little harder to demonstrate, right? So you need to ideally have some sort of a Scrum project with things in it already. Again, I'm starting fresh because last night when I was trying to go through a demo of this, it was just muddying the waters too much, and it was making it a little challenging to do. And so I'm going to have a clean sprint and a clean backlog. And so when we look back at our stuff, we have our team, we have our Scrum, but before we do the next step, which is we're going to add a Scrum and team to the plan, what I want to do is well, actually, you know what? Let's create the plan, and then I'm going to come back and I'll show you what's going on here. So I'm going to come in and create a plan. And so since we're in the April session, you should already know how to create plans by now. So I'm going to kind of speed up through this. But this is going to be my capacity planning demo 2. And folks, this is where we differ. This is where you need to pay attention. So if you're not paying attention, I'm going to need 10 seconds of your life. Okay. So you want to add a board. You could get away with adding a project, but it's not recommended. You want to be in a board, and then you want to find the board. So in this particular case, we want that board that we just created. And then you want to add your team. All of these are going to be very important. You want to make sure you fill this all out so that this works correctly. Again, you don't have to do it this way, but then you can't complain when the plan doesn't work, when the capacity planning is not working ideally. Okay. And so you want to do those steps where you're adding the board and you're adding your team. Okay. If you don't, again, expect interesting behavior. Because once you do that, what you're going to have over here is your team. And so since the team has been added, we have our team here. Okay. And this is a good first step. And so the next thing I'm going to show you is your capacity. And so once you have your team inside of your plan, right, this is naturally going to come in because I included it as a resource. You're going to click on these 3 ellipses here, and you're going to go to your team setting. And the first thing you want to modify is how long are your sprints? So most of you should have, hopefully, fingers crossed, a 2-week sprint. But some of you might be operating on a 1-week sprint. Some of you might have a 3-week, a 4-week. I don't know what you have, right? But 2 weeks is ideal. But the magic number that you got to figure out is your capacity. How many points in total can your team do? And this is a very critical question to ask because you might not know what your capacity is. So when you don't know what your capacity is, we have to go back and look at what we can do here, right? And so going back into your Jira project, I want to show you a couple of things just to kind of help you figure out your capacity. Because in the chat, what's the difference if you can help me answer, what's the difference between velocity and capacity? In the chat, who wants to help me with that question? What is the difference between velocity and capacity? Who's got an idea? Who thinks they have the right answer? Let's see in the chat. Velocity versus capacity. So Da Canish is saying velocity is what you delivered. Okay. So then what, my friend, is capacity? If we know what velocity is, what you delivered, which is I think a great definition. So we got velocity is how much work the team can deliver. Okay. Capacity is how much you can do. Velocity is how quickly you can get it done. I think Victoria, I think we're close, but I think we're closer with what delivery, I think, right? So velocity is the actual and the capacity is what we think we can deliver. I think this right here is the definition I'm looking for, right? So velocity is your actual, right? It's your actual number. What is the truth for your team? And the capacity is kind of influenced by that velocity, right? Because the velocity tells us, okay, historically our team can do 100 points, right? And you can see that in data because you actually have a report in Jira called the velocity chart that will take your sprints, and I have an empty sprint here. Let me go look at a different board that hopefully has data, right? So you can go look at your velocity report, and it's going to based off of real metrics, right? You can't fake this stuff. Jira is going to take the actual data that you've give it, that you feed it, okay? And it's going to help you determine your velocity. That velocity should very closely impact your capacity because your capacity can alter a little bit, but it should be hugging that velocity pretty closely. And so in this particular case, I have these sprints here. I have 12 sprints or so. And you see that my commitment, my velocity is really zero because my team has signed up for 20 items every sprint, but has managed to finish a whooping 0 items per sprint. And again, your number is going to vary, but you can come to your real project with real data. You can come in here and get your average. And you can take the average of these numbers, and that's going to give you a pretty good understanding of what your velocity is because how many points has your team been able to complete is going to be determined here. Now, a couple of things you got to be aware of. I'm going to go full screen for this. If you're not using story points, then capacity is not going to work out very well for you because capacity works whether you use hours or story points. But if you're not using any estimate, then the capacity part of it is not going to work very well for you. So you kind of have to get yourself in a chicken and egg situation first, where you gotta use story points, right? You have to use story points because this metric right here, this report that I'm showing, oh boy, the velocity chart only works off of story points. So if you're not using story points, then you're not going to really know. Yeah. So things like t-shirt sizing, other elements of estimating, if it's not the story point or at least a time estimate, you're not gonna have the ideal experience. So this is one of the reasons why I don't like the capacity planning from plans is because it really just sends you down one path. You have to, and I'm going to show you here, you have to use the team field, you have to use sprints, and you have to estimate. Like those three things have to be true. Because if they're not true, then you're not gonna be able to do anything that we're gonna demo in this class. But the thing is, not every team uses the team field. Not every team uses sprints, and not every team estimates with story points. And if they do, and if they do, internally, not every inner team uses the same value for story points. So somebody's velocity of 1,000 might be the same as somebody's velocity of 100 because it's relative, right? And so I would, again, I don't like the idea of it just because there's so many variables, so much uncertainty, and so much flexibility that it's hard to have a defined process. But again, I'm here to kind of show you the best way to do it, but we'll see. So, anyways, you need to know your velocity and your capacity because again, they're kind of related. And so 30 points is what Jira ships by default. But if you have a team of like 10 people, assuming they can finish, I don't know, 15 points each, right? You're probably looking at capacities closer to like 150, right? And so I would say for a traditional Scrum team, right? It's I'm just throwing numbers in the wind here, but I usually, again, historically, my teams have usually done about 20 to 25 points. Usually means a full sprint workload, and I usually have anywhere between 7 to 10 members, right? So you can kind of do some math. So about any number between 100 to 150, I think is going to be enough. In this particular case, we have 5 people on the team. I'm just going to go 20 points per player, essentially per team member, and so that's how we're getting to the math, right? I have 5 people on the team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to assume that the capacity on average is 20 points. So 20 times 5 is 100. Okay. So that's the first thing you want to do is you want to modify that. So once you have that, we're going to push this in here, make sure it's all good, make sure it gets saved. And now we can go into the timeline view. And so once we're in the timeline view, what Atlassian recommends you do is you change your group by to be based on team. But you're going to see that it's all empty. Everything's under unassigned because what we have not done yet is taken advantage of the team field. And so now we have to go back into Jira. We have to go back into our project. And in our backlog, for every story, we now need to assign it to a team. And so this is again where if you don't follow these steps, you're not going to get the best results. But if you want to leverage the power of capacity planning and the plan, then you have to follow the steps. But there's steps that in all the teams that I've coached and worked with, they're not steps that you traditionally take. So this is why, again, I started at the beginning saying like, well, this thing's cool, but not for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the team field. I'm going to pin it because I don't want to be hunting for this team field every time. And I'm just going to quickly go through the list of all these, not all of them. I'm just going to grab like maybe 5. Why didn't you pin? I told you to pin. Pin. Unpin. I want you to pin. It's not pinning. Come on, Jer. Don't make me look bad in front of the wizard. Okay. Plan B. We're going to move the team field up from here and move it to above assignee and save those changes. Okay. Hopefully now it'll be up higher so that I can see that team field. There we go. So for what you want to do then is for each of these items, you want to essentially assign it to the team. And so I'm going to give just a couple, right? I'm not trying to end world hunger here. I just want to quickly demonstrate to you how this works. And so you're going to assign work to a team. And again, you need to do this so that the plan works correctly. Okay, so I'm just going to do like 5 in total. Here we go. Try not to bore you all to death, but we're almost there. One more, and then we're good to go. All right. So in the chat, can you let me know, are you using the team field? What's your usage of the team field? Are you currently using the team field? I'd love to know in the chat. What are your thoughts? Are you using the team field? Okay. So now that I've added the team field there, I can go back to my plan and I can do refresh here and I should get data. So I should now have my capacity demo team here. I now have the epic, and then I have all of my stories. As an added bonus, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in the team field here so that I can visualize it, and I'm going to move it up a little bit so I can visualize the team here. So you can just kind of make sure that it's there. And this is going to serve a couple of purposes because now from here, I could technically go into the stories of another epic, and here I can assign work to a team. So this is great because very quickly you saw that I very quickly, much faster, infinitely faster, I would say, have assigned 5 new stories with that team. And it took me seconds instead of the minutes that the other one took. And so this is one benefit of using the plan is that you can very quickly do this here. Okay. Now, the next thing that we're going to want to do is we want to pull in the sprint, right? And so we're going to pull the sprint in. And I'm going to move it up here to make it next to the team because now we're getting ready, right? Now we're getting ready to figure out, okay, what does this look like, right? How do we use the capacity planning, right? And so we're going to pull in the sprint field and one more. We're going to bring in our estimate. I think I have story points. Yep. We're going to bring in our story points. And we're going to move that up next to the sprint here. Okay. And so these are the three fields that we really care about when it comes to capacity planning, because we have our team, we have our sprints that we're going to have available, and then we're going to have our story points. Okay. Now, this is where things start to get a little bit fuzzy, because at this point, we've set the T capacity. We have some work, right? We have some work, and we're getting ready to do some mathematics here. We're getting ready to plan and start using the power of capacity planning. Now, when I go to my summary view, you're going to notice that I don't have an active sprint. And the interesting thing, and here's where I want to have like a serious moment with y'all. I felt that this was backwards, because in order for this stuff to kind of work correctly, you need to create an active sprint and put the work in there estimated. But to me, that seems backwards. Like, you would want to plan your sprint and understand your capacities before you go into your active sprint, right? So as you're planning your sprint, you're trying to plan your sprint to capacity. So you need to know what your capacity is to plan the sprint. But based on what Jira is telling me, well, they won't show it to us unless we're in an active sprint. That's it. Felt very backwards to me. It didn't feel right. And in fact, like, until we put something in a sprint here, we don't really start to get the value of Alex. You know, yeah, Alex goes. It's a force of habit. I have a Stream Deck, and when I'm making my regular recorded videos, I go full screen to just not distract you. And so we have a little bit of a chicken and egg situation here, right? Because you have to kind of plan things into a sprint, and you need to put like a number into you have to estimate your work. Because when you do that, when you estimate, oh boy, not gonna let me. Unable to commit. Oh, okay. Discard. Let's do it for a story. When you take a story and you give it story points and you plan it into a sprint, let's try this time, then things start to make sense. So a couple things that we get is, we're going to come over here. And so you get to start to see your sprints. Okay. And so when we're inside of our plan here under our sprints, and let me see if I can find it. And it's not showing up the way I would have expected it. Oh, sorry. I need to be in the timeline view. Here you start to see your sprint. And so now I can see my sprint, and now I can see my allocations, right? But if you don't have the sprints, then you don't get the data. So I thought that was interesting. I thought that was weird, right? Because you have to kind of, again, create the sprint, which is okay, I guess. And now you get to start adding stuff to it, right? But normally I don't use the plan. Normally I'm inside of Jira over here. And so let me refresh this, right? So normally I'm over here and I'm moving things from the backlog into the sprint. And so this is where, again, you might get value, right? You may get value over here because and you need to be in the timeline view to see that, right? So what you may want to do is you may want to come in here and add the team, add the sprint, and add the story points. Because in this timeline view, which is different than the list view, right? This is where it makes sense for you to sit down, and maybe you want to bring your assignee, right? Because this is where it makes sense for you to go, okay, let's plan this work out. And so this one's going to be an 8. This one's going to be a 13. This one down here is going to be a 3. This one here is going to be a 2, right? And so you can go through this exercise and this activity to estimate things out, right? Which is what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to kind of estimate your things out. But when you push your changes in and you click, I'm going to collapse this a little bit, and you click on your sprint, we're still only at 5 because you have to essentially add the sprint as well. So it's not until we add the sprint that we're like planning it into the sprint here that then these numbers start to apply. So I'm just going to add sprint 1 to all of these here. And so now if I collapse my field and I look at my sprint, you're going to notice that we're at 36 out of 100. And so this is how it's starting to come together, right? We're 36% full. We know our capacity, but you'll notice you got to do a lot of toggling. You got to do this toggle quite a bit, and I think it's helpful, right? It's definitely a great perspective, right? We can kind of accelerate ourselves and go, you know what, this one's going to be a 21. We'll assign it to the sprint. And I really should go back and change, but let's do this. Let's add a couple more stories to this team field here, and we're going to essentially see if we can get to capacity here, right? So we're just going to do this, add a couple more stories to our team, save those changes so they show up. Okay. And once you have all of that done, you're going to come up here and again, add things to the sprints. But watch this. So what happens if you add something to the sprint, but you don't estimate it? So Jira doesn't really tell us, but it does tell us here that we have 4 unestimated. So that's good. Doesn't do anything up here. Awesome. But here we're at least aware that we have unestimated issues. So we can come back over here and give these some points here. So I'm going to do 21, 13, 8. All right. So now when I look at my view over here, you can see that we're at 99 out of 100. So that's kind of a good stopping point, folks. I didn't script this at all. So the fact that this worked out well is good. So that's how you basically use the capacity planning in Jira to kind of help you. But you'll notice that we had to do a couple of steps, right? We have to use that team field. We have to bring in, or actually, I don't think you have to use that team field, but it helps organize the work a little bit better. Um, just so you can find it easier, but you definitely have to have story points and you definitely have to have your sprints, right? So if you're not doing those two, it's not going to work out really well. But once you have that, that's one view. The other view is in your calendar view, you get to start to see, well, I guess it didn't say because I don't have dates on these inherently. I haven't put dates on a sprint, but oh boy, there we go. So when you put a date in a sprint, which we're going to go do next, then you'll see your sprint here. And then in the summary view, you will also see some data as well. So we'll show you what that looks like next. So in order for these to start working out, we have to go back into our board. I'm going to refresh this because now I should have more items in there. And you can see that I now have my stories and my tasks in here. Now I do have a little problem. By default, fun little fact, Jira only lets you put story points on epics and stories, but not everything else. And so you do have to modify your Jira setting. You might need to talk to your Jira admin to allow like bugs and tasks to also have story points. But what I also like to do here is assign. And so I'm going to take a second here to kind of give you a little tangent of on how I typically do capacity planning. And so I don't normally do capacity planning at the team level. I typically do it at the individual level because most folks like to look at it at an individual level. But what you'll notice here is that as we're looking at our timeline, yeah, we have our assignees, right? We have the assignee field. And so I could technically assign things to Alana. I can assign things to Emma, right? I can assign things to a few people here, Cassie, right? But when I do that and I push these changes in, we're going to check and see how Jira reacts to this. Again, yes, sorry. Okay, okay. So when we go over here, when we go over here again, we know the statuses, we know the epics, we know the type, and we know the capacity, but we don't know who's got the ball on what. Okay, and this may or may not be important to you and your team. Again, I'm kind of telling you how I do it. So when I'm doing my capacity planning, I like to do it at the individual level. So I care about Emma, I care about Cassie, I care about Alex, right? I care about my work and my teammates' works, right? Not just the team, because the team is important. Don't get me wrong. I think that the team should have a capacity. But the way I like to do it is once you start assigning work to people, then these 3 dots start showing up in your sprint. And when you click on these, you get each individual and you will see by the individual how many points each individual has. And so this is where I can now keep track of that magical 20 that I was interested in and understand, okay, once I give Cassie 20 points, then we're good to go. But I get why Atlassian sets it up this way because this technically follows the rules of Agile better, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? I think this can be a really good thing. But just keep in mind that in all the teams that I've ever coached, doing it this way, doing it the way where you all you need to worry about is the sprint and the story points is awesome. But almost everybody I know typically assigns the work. And I like it so that when you start assigning work out to individuals, right? Once Alex gets some, once Alana gets more, right? If we keep giving work to Alana and I'll get another one here, right? As you do this, this part starts filling out. So now I can see, okay, I might want to pump the brakes on Alex a little bit, not give him more work, but Alana's still a little low, Emma's still a little low. And so now we can tweak, we can find stories that are specific because let's face it, even though Agile says that the team should be self-organizing and that the team, let's see, Sherrick says, assigning a team may create issue if some story point will work the same resource that individual is overbooked. Yeah, it's kind of where I'm trying to get to, right? So the by just assigning it to the team and not assigning it to any individuals, you're basically saying this is what we want to build collectively as a team, right? And again, Agile promotes this. This is the way Agile is designed to work, where you give the work to the team and they kind of go figure it out. But the problem is two things that I've seen in the industry, right? I've been in the industry for I don't know 15 years now, doing Scrum since 2013, so 12 years now. And what I've seen are two things to be true. And in the chat, let me know if you think these things are true or not. I'm kind of curious to get your perspective. But I over the last 13 years of doing Agile, I've come to learn two things to be true. Number one, even though Agile wants everybody to have the same skills, we that's not reality. I've never seen a team of 8 individuals that can do all 8 different jobs. I have always seen a team of 8 individuals with 8 different specialties, right? So I've always seen one person is my front end person, one person is really good at the database back end stuff, one person is really good at I don't know, API stuff, right? And so I've always typically seen a team that is specialized. They can help each other out. It's still an engineering challenge, right? So they still speak the same language, but they have specialties. They have ownerships of different parts of the system. Some person really likes this system because they architected it, right? They created that system. And so I always see specialization. So when you have a list of tasks that need to get done, I typically tend to lean more towards like, well, let's assign the task that makes sense to the person that's going to have the highest probability of success here. So that's why I like assigning work. And the second thing that I've seen is that when you don't assign work, then traction tends to not be as high, right? Because you end up like saying, oh, well, I thought this person was going to do it. I thought this other person was going to do it, right? So I tend to find that when you don't assign the work, folks just kind of wait and see what happens. And when the stakes are high, you got real deadlines and real budgets, and again, things that Agile doesn't necessarily care about, deadlines and budgets, right? But when you have real deadlines and real budgets, which is things a lot of businesses care about, leaving it up to fate is not something that settles well with me. So anyway, so that's why again, I'm not a big fan of this capacity stuff. I think I can appreciate it, but it's not I prefer to have a little bit more control. So Debbie says there are typically some overlaps of skills that's not to complete black and white. Who picks up each ticket? Yeah. Not if you have a good scrum master keeping them honest. I think again, so many different diverse teams out there, but I like to be a little bit more micromanaging from that perspective because at least when it comes to planning the sprint, I like to see it here. I like to manage my capacity here because I still have the story points that are going to go into the sprint, right? I still know the team performance here because I have the total. But I do like to see who's got the responsibility and who's undertasked or overtasked. Because again, if we just leave 80 or 100 points of unassigned work, then I'm really leaving it up to fate. Really, that's really what it comes down to hope that the team is going to be completed. So again, I'm not a big fan of that. So because of that, I tend to take more control and I tend to do my capacity management by using this feature here. Also, when you use this feature here, you only have to worry about the story points and creating the sprint. You don't have to worry about putting the dates on the sprint. You don't have to worry about creating the team. You don't have to worry about creating the plan. And so it gets a little bit easier. Now, the only time that I think this makes sense is when you're managing multiple teams, multiple Jira projects, multiple resources that are just scattered all over the place. Because when you do that, then the plan, because you can pull in different teams and you can pull in, right, you can plan multiple sprints at the same time, then the plan makes a lot of sense to me, right? Because now the plan is going to give me an edge, because the limitation of this view is that the stories here can only belong to this project, or should only belong to this project. And so that's kind of where the con, or the drawback here is. So that's essentially what I wanted to show you. So now, just to kind of wrap this up, put the bow here in the last few minutes, let's go ahead and start our sprint. We're going to add some dates. So we have April 22nd, and we're going to go through May 6th. We're going to hit start. And once we do that, once we have an active sprint, we can go back to our view over here and into our timeline. And now we have the dates. So now we know the actual dates of the sprint. We know the allocations, right? How many points have been allocated. As issues move, right? As a team starts updating statuses, right? We're gonna move this one to in progress, this one to in progress, this one to done. So as the team is working through the work, you're gonna see the allocation of the points here by epic, by type, by capacity. So the status, I think, is the most valuable one here. We can see how many story points are active or in work versus completed. So this gives a good picture here. So this is a cool view here. In the summary view, now this one starts to come together, because over here we can now, again, if we have multiple teams, we can toggle and take a look at that. But now we can see, okay, 78% of my sprint has been allocated, 20% are unallocated. So we still left some buffer. We still left some freedom, right? Because we should have planned up to 100 points, but for some reason we went under. Maybe there's a holiday, right? Maybe there's a day off. Maybe y'all work on a 980 schedule, whatever the reason may be. For whatever reason, we didn't plan up for 100 points. And so Jira's telling us there's a little bit of slack here. So that's good. Okay. And then in the calendar view, you also then get to see the sprints here. So you don't get to see the actual capacities or anything like that, but you do see the start and the end date of the sprint. So that's really good. And then the last item that you get to see is the calendar view. Oh, the program board. So the last cool thing is, if you're more on the safe side of the house, you can create a program board, and you can give this capacity program board demo, and you can hit create. And now Jira is going to go in and basically give us a quarterly view of the work. And so here I can add sprints, and I can go in and create more sprints. So I can actually go back into Jira, go back into my backlog, and create a couple more sprints. I'm going to create sprint 2, sprint 3. Notice that they have dates automatically, right? But I can start planning out a quarter at a time. And I'm not a big fan of this. I think that if you can predict the future, and you can pre-plan your sprints, then you and I should go to Vegas, because maybe you know something I don't know about the future. And again, I would like to go to Vegas with you. But for most folks, that's not the case, right? We can't predict the future. So again, I'm not a huge fan of this. But in this program view, you could now pull in sprints. So I'm going to pull in, this sprint is going to be this one here, and then this one's going to be over here. Never mind the dates that they don't match up. Or sprint 3, sprint 4, right? So you put things like that, and you click add. Woo, okay, calm down. I don't know why all columns need to have a sprint assigned. Wow, okay, so I needed to have gone in the past. All right, this is what happens when you do things unscripted. We're going to just go back in time and do this. I may have to create more sprints. Okay, let me go create some more sprints. So we need to create sprint 4, sprint 5, sprint 6. Okay, now I have sprints, and I'm going to refresh. And I'm basically just telling me I have to assign a sprint to somebody. So never mind the dates, right? But you basically do this. You preemptively go and create your 6 sprints for your quarter. You click on add. And now from here, from this particular view, and I think this one's, again, a nice view, but from here, I can start now kind of saying, okay, this one's going to go to that sprint. This one's going to go to this sprint. And you can start going through this work, and you can start basically pre-planning out your quarter, right? Influenced by your epics and everything else, right? Because you can just look at the specific epic, and go, okay, this one I need to make sure is here. This one needs to go over here, right? And so this is where managing your dependencies, having good views on your dependencies is going to play a good role, because now you can set order of operations. So that's kind of cool. So anyways, that's it for this section here. This is the program view, which again gives you a great perspective as to, very quickly, you can see how I can very easily see things. And essentially now when I go to my backlog, all of my work is going to be pre-planned into sprints, and it should be in the right order. And so there's a lot of value. There's a tremendous amount of value in being able to leverage this plan view to plan those sprints out. But again, not every team um, does it, right? So again, it kind of loses this value if you're not used to it, because you really have to invest some time and energy and kind of know what you're doing here to really take advantage of this. But it means you need to be more organized. It means you need to be more coordinated, and that's sometimes not a reality for a lot of companies. So hopefully this section was valuable to you all. Hopefully you got some value out of it. If you did, I just wanted to give you here some more tidbits. So I do have a Udemy class. I am working on. I have nothing but time nowadays. I don't know if you all know, but about a year ago, I quit my job. Sorry, about a year ago, about a month ago, I quit my job. So my only job is to make content. And so I literally just recorded a course that I'm partnering up. There's a gentleman who does agile based trainings, and so he asked me if I could do a class with him. I said absolutely. So I've been focusing, making a Udemy class with him and for him. And so we're going to be publishing that coming very soon, hopefully before the end of the month, if not very soon into May. So we'll get that going. But this course and all the other 3 courses that I teach are also going to get a Udemy course. So those are coming out very soon, because I'm essentially, so here's the game plan for anybody who cares. I'm recording about 25 Team 25 recap videos for you all. So if in case you missed the Atlassian conference that happened about 2 weeks ago, I'm going to be giving you 25 videos over the next couple of weeks that kind of highlight all the great things from happening from the Atlassian community and what Atlassian announced. Then that's probably going to get us into the Summer of Atlassian version 4. So we're in our 4th iteration of Summer of Atlassian. And so the challenge this year is 100 videos in 100 days. And so we're going to be doing something pretty extravagant this time around. 100 videos, 100 days. We're doing interviews, we're doing challenges, we're doing games, we're doing all kinds of stuff. It's going to be great. So keep an eye out and make sure again you're subscribed to the channel here. And then again, we're doing a lot of stuff. So make sure you take a look at that course. But as a bonus, if you sign up for the Udemy course, you get 15 minutes with me. So I will send you a message through Udemy. It's not through me. But yeah, this is all Jira Cloud. There's Data Center. So I don't know, Jen. Data Center doesn't get much love from Atlassian. I think at this point, Atlassian has kind of given up on Data Center a little bit. Watch the interview with Mike that we had. It's an hour and a half interview, but we did ask him the future of Data Center, and his answer was an interesting one. I won't spoil it for you, but essentially, a data center has a future. I just don't think it's the future people want. And so the future is definitely cloud. So if your team isn't in the cloud, Atlassian is going through, basically Atlassian is, their job is to eliminate any and all excuses that folks have to not get to the cloud. So Atlassian is enabling every team to get to the cloud. So hopefully at some point within the next 5 years, your team gets to the cloud. Now, if you do sign up, you get 15 minutes for free with me, and you'll get the Udemy course, this course, and then you'll get the one that I'm making for this class. Now, finally, we are at the end of April, so I do have a lot of classes left, and so feel free to sign up for any of the remaining classes. I have courses for Scrum Masters. We are still going to continue. So next month, we're going to talk about cross-team releases. I have a Jira Administrators class, and then I have a Jira for Beginners class. So sign up for any and all of them. Tell your coworkers, tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody you know. And at the very, very least, if you take anything away, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. So I'm always posting stuff on LinkedIn, guides, tutorials, just insights, tidbits within the Atlassian ecosystem. So if you care for any of that, make sure you go to my link tree and follow me on LinkedIn. We also do have a merch store. We have our Got Jira shirts. We have the Jira Life shirts. Go subscribe to the Jira Life. We have it at Spotify. We have it on YouTube. In fact, in like 5 minutes, we're going to get started with our ACP 620. study sessions. So go over to the Jira Life, go on YouTube and literally put in the Jira Life, and you'll see our awesome podcast um, that we post. And so go check us out, subscribe, help us get to 2,000 subscribers. We're so close to 2,000. So if you guys can, there's like 86 of you here. So if 86 of you subscribe, then we're going to be a little bit closer to our 2,000 subscriber goal here. And so help us get to 2,000 subscribers. And that's it for this one. We'll see you next month. Thank you.